had had enough.
Well, you drove out there into the middle of nowhere and had some sort of loud verbal display challenging.
Hi.
Hi.
So hello, everybody. Welcome to Spirit Switchboard. I am Kerrilynn Shellhorn, your host. Thank you for joining me. We are here live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 New Orleans. So I have on today my friend and paranormal investigator, Jodi McGrath. And I've been really looking forward to this for quite a while. Like as soon as the show started, I knew that I wanted to do a talk about pioneer cemeteries because it's something that we've been doing for a while. And I've been calling it our haunted cemetery crawl is what I've been calling it. And we've been doing it for a while now. So I knew that I wanted to bring you on and chat about it. So before we dive into all of that, can we share a little bit about you with the people that are listening, who you are, how you got started in paranormal?
Sure.
Investigations.
Yeah. I mean, that came down the road a little bit, but I think that I've always had a belief in and a fascination with paranormal right from the time I was a kid, really. I grew up in a household with Irish women. My mom was born in Ireland, and I know we have a few people on our porch group that are big fans of Ireland and the magic of that whole country. But I grew up with all of the old wives' tales, superstitions, as well as
folklores.
Yeah, like you can't put new shoes on a countertop or a table because it's bad luck, and the someone with dark hair has to be the first to walk through your door after the New Year's starts, and if they have green eyes, even better. So
isn't that funny, eh?
Yeah, but also they just had a huge belief in afterlife and spirits visiting, and I grew up with stories of my Nana talking about gypsies coming to their door and giving them fortunes, which I mean really was like mediums, right? It was like psychic messages that they were getting.
Right. And I think, I mean, it's not necessarily a term that we use appropriately now either, right? But certainly what they were using then, that term.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, they were travelers, right? Vagabonds kind of, and they would literally come to your door and offer you a message or a reading, I guess is what we would call it now. But back then it was more like fortune telling somewhat. But yeah, so that's where it all started for me. I think I've always believed. I didn't have any personal paranormal experiences until I lost my dad in 1990. And then we started having things happen in the house that were unexplainable, except my mom always had the explanation that she was a firm believer it was my dad, and he would freak the crap out of my brother. And
that's so funny.
The dog would be staring at the ceiling and wagging her tail and getting all excited and stuff. So that was my first experience with like paranormal activity of any sort.
Right.
But as a teenager into my like early 20s, I started watching all of the the ghost shows, the investigation shows on TV. And I mean, certainly with a healthy dose of skepticism. We all know that there's editing and everything else that goes on those, but it just tweaked my interest even further and sort of wanting to delve into that a little bit.
And one of the things that you do for me, I have an intuitive mentoring group called the Kerrilynn's Morning Porch Gathering Place, and you help monitor that and moderate it for me. And we have a few people from the porch group here saying hello. So Julie Dow and Cheryl Smith. So hello, ladies. Thanks for being here. And this is probably like the first time that, the porch group peeps are seeing you.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the
live
pleasure
and in person, right?
Yeah, I'm sure I've talked to a few of them online, but yeah, and had the pleasure of meeting a couple at, a couple of your events. But yeah, it's nice to put a face to the name, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
do exist.
Right. So, and I think that, did we connect for the first time at a seance at my house, or was it through the investigation that we did?
So I came to you for a reading, but then right after that, you
Right. With a
had
group of
done,
people.
yeah, you had started your Victorian seances. This is like way pre-COVID. So you had started, you did, I think it was around Christmas time that you did the first couple from your house.
Yeah. I think that the first Victorian seances I did 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Actually, not necessarily in the house that I'm in now, but
Okay.
yeah, 7 or 8 years ago. And then we did the investigation at the Hermitage.
Yes. Yeah. I came to that
Outside
one.
of
Yep.
outside of Hamilton, and it's just, I think the way that we approach things clicked, and we've just kind of rolled from there.
Yeah.
So one of the other things that that you do is Equine Reiki. Can you share with everyone who's listening a little bit about that?
Yeah,
And it's super weird because I knew that like animal Reiki was a thing, but I don't know why I didn't, like, I was like, Equine Reiki, well, isn't that something? But I mean, why wouldn't it be something?
Yeah, really. I mean, they are such intuitive creatures. Like it's,
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that there's more of a connection there even than, I mean, I work on my dogs, but it's the equine portion of it is much more encompassing, and I get as much out of it, I think, as they do. But yeah, that's also a path that I started on sort of through you.
Yeah.
Delivering the message from my dad again.
Yeah.
But it was comical how it started, really, because he would just continue to bring up horses and Reiki in readings. And I always just assumed, well, he's talking about it because I get my horses massaged and I get, chiro, and I get all of that stuff done for them, not connecting that he was trying to insinuate or point out that this was something that I should be doing.
Right.
Not even realizing that my dad would even know what the heck Reiki was, first of all.
Yeah. And I think that's a misconception that, people believe that their loved ones that are in spirit kind of stay at the same place as when they were here, but they don't, right? They heal, grow, evolve. They have access to information, past, present, future, and can support us on our journeys. So he definitely kept encouraging it. And it was well over a year of encouragement.
Oh, for sure. And it wasn't even, I don't think, like, he could have probably kept saying it, and I don't know if it would have clicked for me had I not then had the experience I had with my horse Molly, who, the whole story there, but I lost her 3 years ago. She got very ill, and the woman that I had doing massage on her, fantastic. I mean, yes, she's certified in massage, but I know for a fact that she uses much more than that. She's got abilities that she doesn't make obvious to people, make known to people necessarily, but definitely more energy work in there as well.
Right.
And I had her come out the day that I was having to have Molly put down to give her a massage, and I just witnessed probably the most calm. She gave her the most peaceful day that she'd had the whole week that she was sick. And it just, a light bulb went off, and I was just like, I feel like this is what I want to do. I want to be able to do that for animals. I've loved animals my whole life, so I have that connection. I always have. But this kind of just took it that step further. And then a couple weeks after that, I was just with a friend at the barn, and I had my hands on her horse, and all of a sudden the horse started reacting to just my touch. And that was my, as you call it, your aha moment.
Yep.
The truth bumps, the goosebumps, all of that sort of happened. Yep. And all of a sudden it was like, okay, I get it. You were trying to tell me this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so that's where I started. And that's when I started looking up the courses and decided that I was going to dive in, and now I'm doing it.
And are you discovering that that intuitive muscle, that intuitive place has kind of always been there, and now it's just sort of waking up? Like it's a a muscle that you're recognizing and are able to develop when you're doing that?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I've got a lot more work to do for sure. But I think
But doesn't everybody?
Yeah. You're not wrong. But for sure, it's strengthening that. It's making me have more confidence, more belief in myself. And the more
Right.
that I feel like I'm picking up from them, that sort of trickles over into just my normal life. Like even on the excursions that we go on,
Yeah.
it allows me to recognize and acknowledge that, yeah, I'm really feeling this stuff, and I'm really, getting all of those triggers and whatever else you want to call them. But yeah, for sure, the
Yeah.
Reiki is a huge part of that. And I mean, I'm looking forward to the continuation of that, because it seems like every time I work on one, I get a little bit stronger and a little bit stronger. I'm picking up a little bit more.
I love that for you.
Yeah, I probably had my most intense session with Kaylin's horse just last week, actually. One of my good friends, her horse has a special place for me because he was good friends with my horse, and they moved away. They were very much in a little clique. And I put my hands on him and I instantly was just sad. I just felt like a heaviness from him. And normally I have like a little mantra that I have in my head, and it's all about, healing and all for the greater good. And all I kept wanting to say to him was, I miss you too. I miss you too. I miss you too. That's just what he was making me feel. And he was actually had tears. Like even his owner kind of looked up and was like, oh, you're having a moment. And it just I felt like I wanted to cry, and he was like, and that was a new experience for me. But
yeah,
another growth, I think, right? Just another way that I'm tuning into them. So
yeah,
it's
I love
exciting.
that for you.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful that I get to be an observer to that journey, and that I played a little part in it, and an observer to you with that. So
more than a little part, I think.
oh, thank you. I'm glad. I'm really grateful that I get to be a part of that. Yeah. So it's interesting, like the Pioneer cemetery crawls. Mm-hmm. So that's what I started calling them, was let's do some Pioneer cemetery crawls. And really it was trying to find places that we could access to have some social time, to spend time together, spend time doing things that we enjoy, like doing investigations, and doing the cemeteries felt like a good place without a lot of hassle. Yeah. And I enjoy cemeteries anyway. Like I enjoy looking at the headstones and the history of it and historical places. And I'm glad that you were a willing participant.
Yeah.
Sure, let's go.
Sure. Yep.
And I think the research part is definitely, the research in trying to find places or deciding where we were gonna, the places that we were going to go. Because I think that we started last year about this time.
I think so. Yeah. It was around fall. Yep.
Because, yeah. And then a lot of learning curves. So I thought maybe we could start our conversation with some do's and don'ts.
Sure.
Yeah. And then we'll talk about the places that we went and share some stories and evidence. But I think that it's really important to, talk about the do's and don'ts of cemetery investigations, right? Because I think some of the places we are going to talk about openly because we can, and there's a couple of places that maybe we won't share the name, because not everybody, I would like to think that everybody knows how to be respectful, but they don't. There are people that just, will not be respectful to the stories, to the land, to the properties, so we're just not going to share some of the places the names of the places that we've been, but certainly share our experiences. So one of the things I learned from my friend Carrie, because we had gone investigating as well too, was to use the geocaching app.
Right.
So I have found places through the geocaching app. So if you don't know, what geocaching is. It's an app that you can put on your phone. People hide little caches. So sometimes it's money, it's little gifts or trinkets, and you put the coordinates in and people try to find it. And then when you find the cache, you replace it with something else, right? And then all that kind of fun stuff. But the people that do those caches look for some out of the way places, and there's like pioneer cemeteries that show up on those geocaching apps, right? And Find a Grave, I think that you and I both used that one as well too.
Yeah, I've just kind of Google, and I find that Find a Grave comes up the most often.
Yeah,
especially when I don't know if it's more related to the pioneer, because I tend to Google like strictly pioneer cemeteries, and that's what comes up. But yeah, you've definitely you find some obscure ones on that geocache. I don't have that app yet, but yeah.
yeah, we have found some obscure ones, and I think that it's turned out well for us, right? Like, and so I just want to do a shout out. So it says I believe it's INS Crafts and Supplies. Thanks for being a first timer joining us on Spirit Switchboard. And hi, Michelle. I know that the horse stories are beautiful, for sure. The cemeteries too, like the cemeteries you can check out during the day, like taking a walk during the day, so you have an idea of the things that you might want to get a lay of the land, right? Get a lay of the land. So I think, Michelle, that's a good question. How do they qualify as a pioneer cemetery? So I think the places that we've looked at, had that early 1800s to mid 1800s, and some of the cemeteries had a mix of those early years and right up to now. So that's I think that was sort of what we were looking for, were those years, late 1800s anyway, or early 1800s to late 1800s is what we were looking for.
Yeah, and a lot of them tend to be those the small little sort of off the beaten track kind of places, as opposed to the big expansive, like Woodlawn in Guelph, for example. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
we did hit up the Woodlawn Cemetery in Guelph, and I think, in looking at those do's and don'ts, it's making sure that you're not going to a cemetery by yourself, making sure you understand safety as well too, what the rules and boundaries are. Some places require you to be out at a certain time, so we're not encouraging trespassing. Making sure that that it's a safe environment as well too. We certainly have been to cemeteries where it's in the middle of nowhere with no lights and it's very dark. So being mindful of that, those roadside kind of cemeteries for sure. We hit a few of those
down the big hills.
dressing appropriately, like the ground is not stable, and that's why, certainly a learning curve, some of those aspects of learning curve for me as well too, like doing a day scout probably would have been a good idea, knowing what to bring, but I totally go all in.
To be fair, we do usually start before it's quite dark out, so
which I think is a good idea, to get there before dusk anyway. Again, same thing, right? I think too, setting your intention, no matter what investigation you're on, setting your intention. What is your intention? That matters. Setting your personal protection up, what matters to you and your belief system, setting that up as well too. I think too, making sure, again, it's like making sure that you're not going to be getting yourself in trouble.
Yeah. I think my big one was the respect, the being respectful, both of the property that you're investigating as well as the spirits, right? Like, we introduce ourselves, we make it known, like, that we're there out of respect, that we want to hear their story, that, we didn't come with any ill intention, like, just that sort of respect. I think that's something that you should always sort of carry.
Oh yeah, I agree. Um, and I think again, it's weird because I wasn't expecting to get as much evidence as what we did and to have as many personal experiences as what we did, because I had never really thought that spirits would stick around a cemetery as well too, and I still don't necessarily understand why. I don't know if I have come to, or will we ever really understand why. I know that I have taken intuitive groups when I've taught intuitive development. I've taken people to cemeteries to practice putting the tools that I've given them to work in cemeteries as well too. And I think because I just enjoy it and the history of it, right?
Right.
Oh, Irene, that's okay. That's all good. I'm glad that you're here. It doesn't matter what, under what profile that you're here. So I'm glad that you're here and hanging out with us. What was some of the other things that I was thinking too? I wrote down some stuff. Oh, because I did some reading about it after we really got into doing the cemeteries. Was to go in from the main entrances, and the far back left corner would probably be a hot spot. And so I don't necessarily understand why, but the thought or theory is it's kind of where stuff gets moved to. So flowers or things that get left behind, kind of that back left corner seems to be a place where things go to. So a lot of times that happens. And we put that to the test.
We did the last time we went out. Yeah. It certainly rang true.
It did.
Yep. Yep. For the two that we went to. Yep.
Yeah, it did. So, going in from the door, from the main entrance that people would enter, and going to the far back left corner. And then also that Western cemeteries aligning east to west, so that they face the rising sun. And then I read that we haven't checked yet, because I just so the next time we go out, we'll have to check that some of the preachers, ministers would be buried in the opposite direction so that they could face their congregation.
Oh, interesting.
Right? So we'd have to check that out.
Yeah, we're going to have to check that out for sure.
I think too, if you go beforehand, you can check for those hot and cold spots. You can check for pipes, any of that kind of stuff. We were not necessarily careful about any of that when we.
No, we kind of just dove right in.
I know, right? I mean, water sprinklers, electrical stuff, anything like that, right?
I mean, I was going to say we treated it definitely to me, it's different, and maybe we should have done a little bit more beforehand, but I'm thinking of it in terms of comparing a cemetery investigation to an indoor investigation. When we go to the indoor stuff, we did the factory, and I've been to the Rolling Hills Asylum in New York State, and we did all of that. We did the, you want to take readings and see, is there cold spots? Is there, are you picking up anything on your EMF? Those kind of things. And then you're prepared for the hot spots, like you said. But we don't do that with the cemeteries, and I don't know why. We haven't done any recon.
No, and I really do think I go in wide-eyed, like a kid at Christmas, just with a really big sense of wonder with a lot of these places, not necessarily expecting it, but always kind of in awe that we actually are having experiences in the way that we do. Right. Aaron is asking, why is energy still there if the person has moved on? So I mean, some of the places that we went, it didn't feel like the energies actually had moved on. So whether it's attached to the land, to their headstone, to the story, if there's people that also kept them there, I don't really know why some of those energies are still there. I would say the one cemetery that we're going to talk about tonight, I think that there is definitely a spirit that keeps other spirits there.
Yeah.
He's definitely a collector for sure. That,
Yeah.
I would say
He's
that
a
he's
strong presence, that one.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Definitely a collector. And again, if you're not spiritually aware, intuitively aware, have a lot of investigations underneath your belt, being super mindful, like how to approach things if they do go sideways, because that cemetery in particular went sideways, and that energy was intense, and needing to be mindful of how to deal with that when it does, right? So and
if you feel like you're being told to leave, then leave.
Exactly.
Right?
It's about being
being
respectful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Thank you for asking that. Julie's asking a question now too. There's a fabulous cemetery in Niagara-on-the-Lake. Have you investigated there? So that's interesting. So I can't remember the name of it. I've taken my youngest son to Niagara-on-the-Lake, and we did walk around during the day at a cemetery not far from all the main shopping in Niagara-on-the-Lake, and a lot of stuff happened. We definitely, I think that because it was during the day, I wouldn't. It was too easy to debunk the EVPs, but my cell phone was going off. It was just shutting off and on. The compass was spinning in circles. It wasn't finding true north. Like we had lots of, then we had other equipment where the batteries drained right away. So we definitely, I think Niagara-on-the-Lake is one of those places for us. That's on our someday list.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Niagara-on-the-Lake in general is, I mean, I've read all sorts of stories, but I've had my own experiences there as well. And it definitely is one of the hot spots in Ontario for hauntings. And
for sure. At the fort?
I've done a couple of the Halloween tours. And I mean, it's not hokey. It's not pretend ghosts. They actually literally have real ghosts and real ghost stories. And if you're lucky enough, you get a fantastic tour guide that knows all of the stories. And that's actually where I learned that I have more abilities than what I thought. Like that's where I first started sensing, because I was seeing things moving when other people weren't seeing them moving. I was hearing footsteps, and then I started having the physical responses like the vertigo and the, just the feelings of, nope, I don't want to go in there. I'm not going to that spot. And that was sort of the first investigation, if you will, that I went on, even though it was a group outing. And from there on, so Niagara-on-the-Lake, I mean, definitely a hot spot. And we need to go to that cemetery for sure.
There's a lot. I mean, honestly, we've done some, we've tried to stay away from like ones that are more well-known. We've done these intentionally finding these other ones. So the one that we did do that's more well known, that was kind of one of the first ones that we went to, was with the Donnellys. So the Black Donnellys. And I should have looked up the whole story of the Black Donnellys to be able to share, but I mean, it is kind of well known if you're in Southern Ontario or if you're in Canada, the story about the Black Donnellys. So we went to look at the cemetery there with them, and we had a whole experience. I mean, I think that it was interesting when we were there. We had weird voices coming through the spirit box, like it almost sounded growly.
Yeah. Well, that was I had that weird app on my phone too, where we were getting that very sort of demonic sounding.
Tinny sounding.
Yeah.
It was tinny sounding. And but I don't necessarily feel like we had any personal experiences when we were there.
No, not that I reckon. I think I did get after, because I always take my digital recorder, right?
Yeah.
And I did get someone saying something about a girl in the window of the church. And I think that's the only thing that I picked up.
Yeah. As far as personal, I mean, it was interesting to go. It was interesting to see how people were thoughtful, how they honored that there was money, gifts, there was other things that were being left there. There was other people searching for that headstone as well while we were there. Like we went during the day, and then, but what was interesting was we drove down the road past the Donnelly farm, and that was weird. And again, you don't always have to be right in a location for things to happen. We were driving by and just on the road, and the road itself, we had experiences. So my cell phone was like, it was church stuff. Like I had Jesus coming up on my cell phone. Like there was a lot of stuff that was coming up that way on definitely the road we had personal experiences on.
Yeah, for sure.
And from there we went, so that's towards Lucan. So Julie is just saying, funny you should say that. That was my next question. Have you been to the Lucan one? So we were there, and we didn't necessarily, it doesn't mean that, like we went during the day, and we just thought it would be a neat thing to check out and to drive down the road. We actually had more happen when we drove down the road past the house than we did. Than what we had happening there. I don't think that we really had our frame of mind at that point in time wasn't necessary that we were going to have. It was about having a good experience and just being out. And so we headed to, I try to come up, or like collectively, because it's not always me each time, 2 or 3 different cemeteries to check out, right? So if it doesn't feel like much is happening here, we move on to the next one. And so that was our first one. The next one that we went to, it's sort of in that Ingersoll, Tilsonburg area. Right. And we had, like, with the spirit box going off in the car as we were getting ready to get out of the vehicle, saying, beware, demon, be careful. Like, we were getting warnings before we even got out of the car. And I was like, well, we're going anyway. Yeah. Like,
I was just going to say, and then there we were giggling and got out of the car anyway.
Oh yeah. Because I mean, I certainly am mindful of when things are heavy, but it didn't feel like it was what it was saying it was. To me, it felt like there was some bully kind of energy that was trying to be intimidating. And I don't handle that kind of stuff very well. I mean, I'm 5'2" area, and I'm like, oh yeah, you want to be a bully? Well, come on. I'll show you what I got. So we went. We weren't parked in a spot that was like a main entrance, so we were kind of off to the side, and we went in. And as we were going up, so visually I could see a crowd of spirits, actually, and it didn't dawn on me until after that it was a Sunday that we were there. And that's what it felt like. It felt like there was a preacher that was having a sermon, like a congregation gathering and talking, and that main spirit like grew like super tall and had a hat and was pacing. And we had a lot that happened at that time. So that was
what I love is you don't share all of that. Sorry, what I love is that you don't share all of that with me right off the bat. You know, like you allow the experiences to happen, and then if I'm picking up on stuff or our equipment's picking up stuff, and then you just kind of add those little stories in. Or like I think you probably told me about the group of people when we'd already been there for a good 20 minutes or more.
Yeah, because he dispersed them. They all dispersed, and then it was like they were playing hide and seek behind the trees, and they definitely were waiting for that particular spirit to dictate what they were allowed to do and not allowed to do. Hi, Howie. Oh, you know what, Aaron? So I realize, Erin, that you are like, I appreciate that you're in that area, but we're really not going to share the name of that cemetery just because I don't, not that I want to keep it to myself. I just don't want stuff happening there. And it was pretty heavy. And yeah, so we're just going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to come back here really quick. Sandy Cordick was sharing. So I'm pretty sure that you were talking, Sandy, about the Lucan Cemetery. I was there as a kid, and the first thing that came was the Black Crow. That's pretty interesting too. Oh, Joanna's sharing a story with us as well too. I enjoyed walking my dog at visiting a loved one's grave during the day. My experience involved being bent over pruning flowers at the headstone when I heard a very loud growl behind me. There was no one there, and I ran to my car and left. I know sometimes it could be, somebody was asking about it potentially being elementals, or which it could be as well too. Like it depends on the land, the energy, what people do there. You don't know if someone's done something and opened a door either, like an energetic dimensional portal door. You don't know what people have done. But at this cemetery, so they dispersed, they kind of like moved everywhere. We did have our equipment going off, and then you really started to have your experience.
Yeah, like if I'm not mistaken, we had what we thought was a little girl coming through as well, that we would get like the heaviness from that gentleman, but we were getting her telling us to be careful.
Yeah.
And right. And then I had like an EMF meter type thing going on my phone, and it would like beep as if I had someone in front of me, and then it would take a few steps away. Right. And so I would follow, and then it would show up again for a minute, and then it would start to get further away, and so I would follow. And I went, a number of steps away from you in the opposite direction, and all of a sudden I got that vertigo, not feeling so great, nauseous. And I think it was at that point that you said, okay, do you really think that they're leading you for a good purpose, or are they trying to separate us, right?
And because at the time it said something about don't go, and you were moving further away. And so I do feel like, sometimes when you have those spirits of little girls, it's not a little girl, and you need to be aware. But I really do feel at that point it was a little girl that was kind of like buffering between whoever that big spirit. But it just got, and it got even more intense where you had vertigo and were feeling nauseous. And that black energy that was super tall kept coming closer to us. So we actually have, I think that you took the picture, and you can see my hand in the picture. So we did take a picture when we were at that cemetery. And it's interesting because it is kind of along a roadside. So we do get, road traffic and stuff like lights and stuff. So we needed to be mindful of all of that. And with orbs, you need to be mindful, like dust. If it's irregular shaped, it could be moisture, bugs, other things. But when it's definitely, you can, let me just see. I may need some. Yes, thank you. You can see. So you took that picture, and then I'm off to the right hand side.
Yeah, we had both felt pulled to a certain headstone, and I think that's when I was just snapping a whole bunch of pictures, because I said to you, I felt like that was the one that we were meant to be in front of. And that was a pretty good capture.
Yeah. And then it felt like we were being pushed out, because it just felt like, we were getting that, beware. It felt like we were being rushed on, like that somebody was rushing up against us. And so we didn't stay. We were there not very long at all. And it started to rain.
Yeah.
Which made it
was
even
kind of a dreary night, the whole night. That sort of added to the atmosphere of the whole thing.
It definitely made it a little bit creepier. as well too. But, when we were leaving, I was very clear, we just what our intentions were. We just wanted to understand the stories. We just wanted to connect. We weren't there to be disrespectful in any way. And thank you for letting us be there. And they couldn't detach and come home with us. And I mean, but we've gone back a number of times to that same place. And we went, when I had that aha moment, we went not on a Sunday, and we still had some intense experiences there, but not at the same place, which made me feel like we really did interrupt like a Sunday service.
But there's definitely something, because we went in the exact same way on purpose, right? And there's definitely something when you reach a certain point on that route into that, we start feeling that energy, right? Like immediately there's like the goosebumps and the hair on the back of your neck is standing.
Definitely heavy, and I definitely think that he's in charge. Whoever that male energy is in charge, and we continuously have different a lot of personal experiences, equipment responding, stuff like that. But we've not really had an EVP or anything like that.
No, although we did do the Estes the last time we were there. I had the headphones on with the blindfold. I took the plunge.
Yeah, you were so brave.
It braved my and I mean, I definitely got some curse words thrown at me right off the bat, and in a very male voice. So I'm pretty sure that we met with him probably right at the very beginning of our night that night.
And I think because we're just going to do a shout out and say hello to Robert from Richmond. Thank you for joining us. I don't know. I just don't do well with bullies, living or non-living, right? So interesting, Joanne. Joanna's saying like her experience was that back left corner. And that's sort of the, that we were under, that's what we heard, right? Like that back left corner is where heavier anomalies, heavier experiences, it's where things go, is in that back left corner. So being mindful of that. Or a good place to check out first, right? Yeah. So I don't remember, we went, so that was a really neat experience, and we've gone back, and we intend on going back again and doing more, because I would really love to get a full picture of him, or that energy manifesting. Like I would love to have a full shadow figure of him. We'll see what happens with that. But we definitely continue to have experiences when we're there. Sure. And we try not to push it too much.
Yeah. Like, I mean, we definitely leave when we feel like it's, it's time to go. We don't want to push our luck or be disrespectful. Right. But it would certainly be interesting if the more that we go, the more that he gets familiar, or they get familiar with us, if things sort of settle down and they do start, maybe having a little more interaction. And
because I'm really interested to see if those other spirits that haven't, like that little girl, or those other spirits that I saw on that first night, that was a crowd, needed to cross over, and if they were stuck in being able to support that in some way, right?
Right.
We also went, ones that we can share, a place that I've taken people to when I've taught the intuitive development, and I wanted to have that experience with you, was the Otterville African Methodist
Episcopalian. Yep.
Yeah. I'm just not good with, I say things incorrect all the time. Episcopal.
Yes.
There we go. I just have to relax and then be able to say it. So that's in like the Norwich Township. So it's one that's kind of like off the side of the road. And I wrote out some of the history for people as well too. Like there's, it was established by Isaac Gray, Isaac Durfee, and Lindsay Anderson, who were the trustees of the frame church that was there. That's not there now. They have these little markers, like where the church used to be, so people could see that, because it's really just kind of like a foresty area now. But Lindsay Anderson was the preacher for that time for the Black pioneer community. And it really started in 1856, went through to the 1880s. The Quakers were really promoting like for them to come and grow that community there. And by the early 1900s, it was sort of dissipating and the church fell into repair and was demolished. The headstones got moved. And I believe that when the township started to restore that area, and to restore the cemetery and make the historical markers, they had somebody come in with dowsing rods to find all the graves.
Right, I remember you saying that.
Yeah, so they can mark them. And you and I didn't even get on the ground. Like we didn't even get in, we didn't even get underneath the sign and in, and which was interesting because we were there about dusk. It was about dusk when we got there, and all of the equipment that we had started to fail. All of it.
Yeah. Your phone wouldn't work, and
Nothing.
that app that I had on was doing some really weird things on my phone.
The GoPro died.
Yep.
The GoPro had
I think we were like right at the entrance. Like I think we had been reading the monument and we didn't get past that.
And everything started to fail as soon as we got there.
Yeah.
And that was at dusk. Now, when I've taken the intuitive development group, because I think I've been there twice, taking people there when I've taught intuitive development, we've been there like at 1 PM. So I don't know if the time of day made a difference, but I mean, we definitely had things happen there. And physically, it didn't feel like we were being kept out. It just, the energy was really big when we were there, for sure.
Yeah, it certainly like made us step back though.
Well, yeah, and just saying, if they, to be respectful, if they weren't wanting to engage at that point in time, then we didn't need to. Yeah, Brenda is just. Brenda's asking, do you feel the time of day makes a difference in your experience?
It hasn't so far. We've had experiences both in daylight and nighttime. I think going at night, it's like it adds to the atmosphere more than anything. You're in a cemetery at night, it gives you that creep factor, right? But I don't think that it matters experience wise. You're just as likely to get something happen during the day as you are at night. I mean, there's more to be aware of if you go at night, for sure. Like we've talked about
even animals, because some of those coyotes at that one was like, it felt like those coyotes were getting closer and closer and closer. It did not, it just kept sounding like it was getting closer, those coyotes, for sure. Robert is saying spirits like GoPros, like ghost cat ball. I agree. That just makes me laugh because like the battery dies on that thing so quickly.
All the time.
Yeah, I'm doing a big event next Friday. It's a week from today, actually.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know. I'm doing this big event, and just doing the trial runs and the practice runs, it has been crazy. So we'll see what the live event is going to be like, because the batteries go so quick on it. The spirits just. And I find, Robert, if you want to chime in, you can too, that sometimes when the batteries drain, there's something big about to happen. It's like they're charging up, and then all hell's going to break loose, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Usually that's when all the lights on all the other equipment goes off.
Yeah, it just seems to go all over the place.
Yeah.
Oh, Howie, did you not hear me say hi to you? We can see your comments. Brenda's saying, wild animals would be scarier than spirits to me. Well, do you know, and I not necessarily at the pioneer cemeteries that we went to, but definitely some of the ones that are in more urban places. People doing nefarious things.
Yeah, we had to remind
Homeless or
ourselves a
mental
couple
health.
times that we're like two women walking out there in the dark, right? So maybe be a little bit mindful that there could be other like not so nice humans around too, right?
I
Like
suppose,
actually
but
living beings.
I feel like I harness my inner. It's going to sound so bad, but like my inner spirit animal that's a skunk, and I just walk commanding respect. Like, they're just gonna like pay attention and move out of the way for me because I'm walking commanding respect. So I wanted to talk about that the Otterville one. That was a pretty intense one as well too. So I think let's go. Yeah. So I do this thing at Christmas time on social media called the 12 Days of Giving. And so the first 12 days of December, I give away, readings. Last year, I gave away an opportunity to join us, you and I pulled you into that, to do a cemetery investigation with us, right? So that was one of the things that I gave away. And it actually was your friend, Tina, that won it. Yeah. So that was
who I dragged to Rolling Hills Asylum, by the way.
Oh, that's so fun. So that was one of the, she also participated at that cemetery that we have the intense experiences with. And she too was like feeling kind of nauseous and had the same things happen. Like, I think that they allow us to be there for a certain length of time. And then when they want us out, they really start making us physically feel ill. So what was interesting was like we've had other people come along with us on some of the investigations that we've done through the summer this time, and Tina definitely wanted to participate more. So she chose a few cemeteries for us to go to, and so we went to the first one. That we had a few experiences where the REM pod was going off and getting touched, that kind of stuff, but it didn't feel super intense, right? Like there wasn't a whole lot going on. So we moved to the because we try to have 2 or 3 different cemeteries, so we moved to the next cemetery. I don't think that we'll share the name of that.
No, I mean we were around the Oxford County area, kind of just floating around there.
In Ontario, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting one as well too when we went in, because it backed along farmers' field. There were definitely other people, kind of wandering around the cemetery at the time, and there was kind of like a line when we went there, and we weren't at that cemetery very long either.
I think I used my dowsing rods right at the beginning, and it was kind of like, it was interesting because it had me following Tina, which we sort of figured out along the way, right? Like I thought it was directing us to a certain area, like where would you like us to go kind of thing, and in actual fact it just had me following her, or it was following her and I was following along kind of.
And so you said, was that a dog? Did somebody just see a dog? There was a dog. And I'm like, there's no dog. Like we're looking around and there was no dog. And you took a picture at the time. And this is the image that you caught. So if you're able to see this photo right behind that headstone in the center, it is something standing there.
Like you can zoom in and there's definitely like the head, and there's like little red eyes, and I mean I didn't look at these until after the fact, but that was the general area where I had sworn I had seen something darting by, and assumed that it was like some type of a dog or something, but like, okay, I'm just going to take pictures. And that was right after we got out of the car too. So it was,
it was early. We were not there long. And
if you think about it, back left.
Yeah, it was
from where we were, right?
It was the back left from where we were. And you can see like the farmer's field is that whole ridge line along the back.
Yeah.
And the, people from the property beside were on like a side by side and went along the field and came in, were walking around. And, whether they were actually checking on family or just making sure that we weren't being disrespectful or doing anything inappropriate there either, because we had our equipment out. But
right, and it was one that wanted you out by dusk, and you can see like we were there in daylight. We
yeah,
definitely
we did.
respected the rules.
Yeah, we certainly did. And so we had that experience, and then the next experience, so you went actually the next day and around the same time to take another picture, just to make sure like you can see the second picture. And it was to make sure that it wasn't a shadow, that it wasn't anything
right, that there
different
wasn't
that
something,
way.
If there was like a memento or something left at the grave, like something that would explain that figure. And
yeah. And I think that you call it like, I don't know, you call it the troll.
Well, it looks like a little baby troll. I don't know how else to describe it.
I don't know. I've never considered trolls small.
Child-sized being with red eyes. I don't know.
Yeah. So for me, Robert says it looks like a chow. So we were there before dusk, and it was summertime. So I don't know. It was maybe 7:30-ish.
Yeah.
Around 7:30-ish.
Yeah. Yeah, that's still that's the original picture.
That's okay. Like you went the next day and you took a second picture. If we don't get it up, that's okay. But I mean, there was nothing there.
There was nothing there.
No,
I tried to get the same angle. My angle might have been off a little bit, but
I think you were just back a bit further in the second picture when you were doing it. But they're definitely
the same view, the same headstones, and there was absolutely nothing there that could.
And I mean, why that surprised you too was like we looked and there was other people there, so other people would have been responding to a dog running around with no owner or a leash. Like we would have all noticed, right? Or they would have called, because actually the cemetery that we went to before that one, we just got there and a car pulled up and let their dogs out to run up and down the country road. So like we had dogs at the other one for sure, right?
Yeah. And the other girl that was with us had been looking in the exact same spot as me and didn't see anything.
Thank you for helping get those up, Lauralee. I appreciate that. So you can see like there's no shadows, same kind of ton of, it just, nothing was there, right?
Yep. Yeah, and when I went back that second time, I drove down that whole road, like right past that, because the road leading in goes right past all of those stones, and there was no like, not even like flowers or anything that would leave any kind of a shape that.
Yeah. And those headstones, like I guess, a learning curve for us too, when we're going is, maybe next time taking, if the GoPro stays, doing a quick video to see like how spaced out. I mean, they were spaced out. That headstone was spaced out further from other ones. There wasn't another one like that was right beside it. So yeah. And then for me, my experience right away as we were moving up was I kept feeling, and I kept saying, I don't know if this gentleman has died from suicide, but I feel, or if he was murdered, but I feel like I'm being shot in the head. Like it was this pow, pow, and my head it just was not good. And I felt disoriented. I was confused. I was getting anxious and really wanted us to go.
Yeah. Like I remember you saying to us, I think it's time for us to leave, but it wasn't because like, not like the other cemetery where we felt like we were being chased out, but it was like, like we need to leave. It's time to move on.
Yeah, it was really weird because I feel sometimes too when I'm picking up intuitively, it's hard to explain. It's like Kerrilynn, me kind of moves off to the side, and then the mediumship stuff kicks in, and I'm an observer at the same time.
Right.
I don't know. It's hard to explain, but yeah, there was a definite push. Like we needed to hurry up and get to where we were going next.
Right.
And it was, I liked where we landed next. And I think that we can share because that stuff is right there, like at the front. Do you feel like that? We didn't really have we kind of had stuff happen, but I think it was more validation for me. We did, like we had a few interactions with, I think the Estes method we did there too. Did we do the Estes method there?
Yes. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I just think it was weird when we landed there because there was a beautiful angel headstone. So we actually landed at, I think it's okay because it's all right there at the front. Mm-hmm. We landed at the Princeton. So we landed at the Princeton Cemetery. And I was drawn immediately just to like this big angel headstone because they're always so beautiful, right? And taking pictures, and there was like kind of nothing, like it felt like it didn't feel like there was anything going on there. But I walked around to the front because then at the front of the cemetery, there was this big piece of stone, and I'm going to read to you guys because I had to write it down because I was not going to remember all of it. So it said that Frederick Cornwallis Benwell. That's quite a handle.
Yeah.
I love it.
Wait the name.
Yeah, Frederick Cornwallis Benwell. So he came from England with John Reginald Birchall in 1890. Believing he was going to be trained, and he was investing in it was called the Farm Pupil Industry Program. So to bring people over to start farming in the community. Right. So he came over with John Reginald Birchall thinking that this is what was going to happen. And that's not what happened. Dude took him out to this swampy area and murdered him, stole all of his money and murdered him. And he was left in this swampy area. So two woodcutters found him, and then they discovered, that he was unnamed. They didn't know who he was, and they discovered that he had been shot twice in the head. Right. So that whole time that I was feeling like, hurry up, we need to go. Hurry up, we need to go. I feel like I've been shot in my head. This isn't good. We landed at this cemetery where there's a big monument for this fellow. So, I wrote his name down too. The names just are awesome. So Chief Government Detective. So awesome in so many ways. Chief Government Detective John Murray was on the case and, trying to go through newspapers and to figure out who this person was because they didn't know who he was. Eventually found out who he was and who John Birchall was. And it was the trial proceedings were transatlantic through the transatlantic telegraph cable. Like the trial proceedings happened transatlantically with the telegraph. Like I just think that's wild. So he was found guilty for murdering Frederick Benwell. He was hanged 1890 at the Woodstock jail, and he was buried in that Princeton cemetery. They both were, actually. Yeah. They were both buried there. So yeah, that was like, it was such a weird experience. And again, it makes you wonder how it's all connected, right?
Well, like my question was, how did he know that we were coming to Princeton next? Like, I mean, we were verbally, I don't think we'd ever said, okay, now we're going here, then we're going here. But for him,
because we didn't even organize. No. We didn't even organize those ones.
Yeah.
But here's where, if it's part of that collective consciousness of one, right? If we're all part of this collective consciousness of one, Tina is the one that organized that day.
Yeah.
Right. So she organized it. She was thinking about it. She put a lot of time and thought into that.
Yeah.
And so we didn't know where we were going until we connected with her and she had the list. So, you know, maybe they knew who the group was. They knew if I just think it's part of it. Right. But it was kind of crazy that we had that experience. And then, yeah. So we're leaving. We're leaving and it's dark. Right. So we probably stayed a little longer than what we should have there. So as we're leaving and it's dark and you always drive us and so you always drive us and I'm in the front passenger seat. You're driving. Taryn was with us for that one as well too. So Taryn came with us. So Taryn was behind you, and Tina was behind me, and nobody was in that middle seat.
Nobody was in the middle.
Nobody was in the middle seat. And you have this fancy schmancy like new car, and it shows like the people's heads, like it shows heads of where people are sitting, right? And it kept showing that there was somebody sitting in the middle of that back seat when we left that cemetery.
Yeah, like the seatbelt.
And the seatbelt. So we did a little video. So if you want to watch the video from when we left that whole experience. Like it's dinging like somebody doesn't have their seatbelt.
Oh, yeah, hang on. Yeah.
Nothing's there.
There's nothing here.
Okay, buckle it up. It's just crazy. Here, buckle it again. So just like, we'll let you watch it one more time. Thank you. And you can see that it's like
hang on.
Nothing's there.
There's nothing here.
Okay, buckle it up.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Like we had whatever demon dog, and then we had dude that
someone was trying to come home with us.
and then we had that experience, right? So I mean, definitely we were setting that intention. Okay, well, you can't be here. You need to go, and we can come back and check out, hang out with you again. And I mean, we didn't.
I literally pulled over. And the girls got out of the back seat, opened the doors, got out of the back seat. We get back in, head back down the road, and no more dinging of the
no more.
It was
because we had stopped to make sure.
Wow.
If you're just joining us, now, thank you for being here. You are listening to Spirit Switchboard. I am your host, Kerrilynn Shellhorn, and you are listening to us live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 105.3 and 107.7 New Orleans. So let me sorry, Kay, we're just going to pull up these comments so that we can share them with everyone. Kay is just saying, I know the Princeton Cemetery well and the history of the murder. My parents, brother, maternal grandparents, and maternal great grandparents are all there. My great grandparents, great uncles, and uncles are all in the back left. Yeah, back left corners, man. My parents, brother, grandparents are on the right pathway back. I attend the service there every year. Nice. It's a lovely cemetery. It didn't feel scary. It didn't feel but it definitely felt like there was a pull for me to hurry up and get there. Like I needed to hurry up and get there is the feel that I had. And she's just saying, when you were talking about the gunshots, I knew the next cemetery was Princeton. Yeah. Yeah. And it was great. And again, we're not encouraging anybody to do anything inappropriate, to be respectful of the land, respectful of the places, that you're going to, and the rules and regulations, right?
Yeah.
That are there. But that whole experience was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a good one. And I think too, when I think it was Taryn that did the Estes method, and she actually got the words him saying "shot in the head." So that was like further confirmation.
Yeah.
I think he was also playing with us that night, because if I'm not mistaken, right after that she got "You can't find me," and I was like, well, we already did kind of find you.
Yeah. I think I know I had talked to Taryn about coming on the show as well too. So I think that we're gonna do a second one, and maybe Tina can come on as well too, and we'll do a whole
That'd be fun.
do a whole chat with everybody on. What did I write next? So I know what I want to talk about next. I think that we could talk about this one as well too, because it's like a roadside one. We're just gonna get rid of this really quick. Oh my goodness. There we go. Sorry, folks. I think because the next one that I wanted to talk about was definitely one that Tina had put on her list that we didn't get to, but you and I.
Yeah, I think we actually had it on one of our original lists last year when we started out as well.
We did. We definitely did. We did. I can't remember. There was one that I found that looked like it was definitely part of a horror movie, and with the wooden sign. And then when we got there, it kind of was like a horror movie, because it was like the steepest freaking climb to get up to it. That was a horror movie in itself, having to
and we
walk up this hill.
Yeah, we didn't have a ton of stuff happen at that one either. But the thing that always
was the coyote place.
Yeah, but it's also one of the places where, again, my name was said through the devices, and that happens a lot. And it used to freak me out, and now I'm just kind of used to it. But it just goes to show you that, like, because we've introduced ourselves when we get there, and we state our intentions, and it's a great way for them to validate that they're actually there listening to you, and to actually have your name said through the machines.
And we had set out the tripwire at that one, and that's where the coyotes were too. Like the coyotes did feel like they were getting closer and closer, and the tripwire was going off back and forth. And I think there was only like 10 maybe headstones.
Yeah, it was a small.
It wasn't big at all.
No.
But the one that I am talking about, I think like we were kind of missing going out and doing investigations, and so we just thought, well, it's relatively close, let's do this one because it's not that far, right?
Yeah.
So it was actually the Bethel Church. So is it in St. George? It's outside of Brantford, in between.
Yeah, it's sort of in between St. George and Brantford. Yeah.
In Ontario. Yeah. And it's on a bend of a road. It's right off the side of the road. I don't know if the church actually gets used or not. It doesn't look like it does, but it might. So I don't really know the history attached to it. But we had parked off to the side, and we were there maybe less than 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, as soon as we pulled up in front of the church, right away, I was like, I'm not sure I like the vibe that I'm getting off of this building.
So Laura Lee is helping produce the show. Laura Lee Potvin, who is the host of the Angel Rock and the Thing at the foot of the bed with David Hansel on. So she's just saying that is so weird. I've seen so many investigations where coyotes show up getting closer and closer and louder in a pack. That's exactly what happened. Yeah. Like hackles went right up. You could feel like the energy was getting more electric. And I think for us, for me in particular, I'm not going to say us because I can't speak for everybody that was there. The panic that I had as the coyote stuff got more intense was how steep that hill was to get to the car.
Yeah.
Like I just envisioned us all being Humpty Dumpty and rolling down that hill to try to get to the car fast, because it was like there was no easy way out of there.
Yeah.
That one we needed to Google Earth beforehand so we had a better vision of what we were actually getting into.
Right. Yeah, we didn't quite understand how steep that hill was going to be.
No. Yeah. And again, making sure that you're wearing good footwear so that you can run if needed, right? And then I was thinking too, like, I mean, definitely because we're going during the day or like in summertime during the at nighttime having bug spray and stuff with us. But
yeah,
maybe
the
we
mosquitoes were brutal.
Yeah, bear spray too or something, just in case, there's like, and there's me with all my snacks because I'm a wear pockets kind of girl. So pockets carry, crystals maybe for some protection. It carries more equipment. It carries the flashlight and the snacks. I'm like, these chubby hips plus the snacks, I'd be quite yummy. I'd be a yummy. That was I think the first time, I've never been nervous about animals, but that time it just was getting a little too intense for me there.
Yeah.
So I was okay about leaving when we did. Yeah. And when we hit Bethel Church, so that was a separate investigation. Just you and I went to Bethel Church. So that one I think is interesting. So please, people, if you go check that out, don't be disrespectful to the land, property, the headstones, or anything like that, right? Like, because we were along the roadside. We weren't really in.
We didn't even delve right in. No.
We didn't walk amongst the headstones at all. We were kind of like right up close, and there's this little path, and it was treed, so like you couldn't really see through the path from the parking lot into, but if you drive along the road you can see it because it's all right along the road at this bend, and you have to slow down to take the bend because it's a pretty it's pretty intense bend. So I think we heard like a growl. We heard it twice. This sort of like growly sound coming from the corner, which perked us up quick. Yep. And then it looked, I don't even know how tall. How tall do you think that shadow was?
I don't know. You saw the shadow. I don't recall seeing the shadow.
Okay.
It went across the side of the church, right?
It was taller than the trees.
Yeah.
So it was taller than the trees. So it was like along the top of the rooftop. So we heard the growls, and then the shadow moved. And I mean, the houses are further back. There was no street lights. There was no cars at that point, but we did have cars that were driving by us.
Yeah.
But at the time when that happened, there wasn't. And if you've ever done investigations and you've had that shadow figure go by, the shadow is darker than dark.
Yeah.
Like if you've not experienced it, it's just darker than dark, and that's what that looked like. It was darker than dark along the top. So it's definitely a place that I would want to, because we would be more prepared for how we would want to approach it.
Yep.
So we'd be more prepared on how we'd want to approach it. But I definitely think that's another one worth, kind of going back, and we were there maybe less than 10 minutes. And you know what was weird too, was when we got back to the car, we were seeing a light in the tree.
Right.
And I had taken a video, and it was weird because we had the infrared on the GoPro, and it was showing almost like something reflective, but there was nothing there. So we kept taking this video in the picture, but there was actually nothing there, but there was a greenish orby light.
Right. That was just kind of dancing around. And
Yeah.
I was looking out the window as you were filming, and I could see nothing with my naked eye.
No.
But as soon as we looked through the GoPro, you could see it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of those things that I've noticed with nighttime investigations, sometimes definitely outside, is sparkles. Like it looks like sparkles, and it's something to pay attention to. Those sparkles are something to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was something definitely showing us that there's, to me, things attached to the land, maybe elemental, something dimensional, something from not from here. Definitely that land, because again, it's farming, like in behind it was all farmers' fields and everything else. Like, who knows?
Yeah, and we're also like Grand River, right? So you're talking indigenous native people as well, right? Like all around this area.
Yeah.
So
it was huge. You're right, Laura Lee. Like it was huge. It was a huge shadow that moved, and so we just had those, and the growls were coming from that corner, like from, and it's a little tiny like stone.
Yeah, it's not very big at all.
No, definitely. So we left. We were like, we tapped out. It's enough.
Yep. We definitely said we'll be back during the day. We definitely did say that we would be back.
Yeah, thanks so much. I think that was enough. And then we went to, again, I think that we could talk about this one out loud because it's not closed off. There's, it's just sort of open to the public no matter what. It's just open. The St. George Presbyterian.
Right.
Is that right?
Right on the main road. Yep.
In St. George, Ontario. And I didn't expect a whole lot to happen there either. And I have to let go of judgment. I didn't realize I could be so judgy sometimes, but I was kind of judgy. And I was like, I don't know about this, because it literally is this driveway that goes to the arena.
Yeah.
Like it's you drive by the cemetery to go to their arena.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Yeah, and it didn't.
I kept thinking, me as a 6-year-old going to the arena skating, like when I was seeing like dead folks, that just not would have been cool. But we went, and we again, we were kind of thinking about that back left corner sort of business, right?
Yeah.
And that's what ended up happening there as well too. But we heard whistles that were responding. So I would whistle and there would be a whistle back. And, at first I was kind of concerned, well, maybe there's somebody whooping it up with a beer in their backyard and hears me. And it's just like responding back, which is possible still. We couldn't debunk it, right? But I don't know, maybe there's a way to go, hey, I'm single. If there's a way to whistle Morse code, hey, I'm single. I don't know. Maybe, who knows? If I pick up a ghosty boyfriend at the same time.
I was just gonna say, you never know what you're gonna get in response.
I know. But I do think that the whistle was a response of something that was in spirit for sure. Yeah. And then you had your experience.
Yeah, so we had, like you said, we were focusing on that back corner, and like I think you also made notice that it seemed like that corner got lighter than the rest of the cemetery, right? Like just like almost like not a glow necessarily, but just lighter in general. Like you would turn and the other corner would be pitch black, and you turn back and you could see the stones, you could see.
And where it was dark was actually where the lights were to turn into the driveway. So that should have been the lighter area of that cemetery, because that corner had no light exposure to it.
Right. Yeah, it was the back corner. Yeah. So you had picked up on, I think you led us over to one of the tombstones, and I don't know. Again, we're going to have to go back during the day because I'm fascinated to be able to read some of these stones better and see if it connects with the experiences that we had. But you picked up on a young girl. And
it was so funny because
you literally turned to me and said, and it's a real young girl.
Yeah, it's not something dodgy.
Yeah.
Dodgy little girl. It's an actual little girl.
Yeah.
And I think you
you
Go
had
ahead.
talked about her story a little bit, about
Yeah.
what you were picking up from her a little bit. And I had my digital recorder that I always just kind of hold down, and I have it going for the duration. And all of a sudden, my hand holding the recorder just got instantly cold, like deep, like freezing cold. And it was about child height. And then I felt a little tug on my sleeve. So we started talking, like I started talking to her, asking if it was the little girl, are you trying to hold my hand? And then I got like a tingling on the palm of my hand, and the recorder got bumped.
Yeah.
So, I mean, very cool. And she hung out for a little while because I could feel the pressure. It was almost like not electrical shock. It was like a vibration more than pressure.
Yeah.
Even like my arm just felt like it was vibrating.
Yeah.
And yeah, she hung out there for a little while. I think, like, we were asking questions about how old she was, and did she live on a farm, because I think you picked up on something about a barn. And
Yeah, like a
unfortunately,
farm
I did
accident.
listen back to my recorder, and I didn't get any responses from her. You can hear the whistle. I did pick up one of the whistles, but
That's
yeah,
awesome.
unfortunately she didn't respond vocally on the recorder at that time. But I mean, what a cool experience, just to know that she was physically touching me in that way. And then my hand was freezing, because I think I had you touch it when we got back to the car, and it was like 20 minutes later, it was still freezing cold.
And it wasn't a cold night, because it was in the summer. It was also not like your hand, one hand down, one hand up, so like blood circulation, any of that kind of stuff. It wasn't that. It was ice cold. Like
cold.
You had been holding ice. It was freezing cold. It was drastically different between the two. And I think or my feeling is that those are spaces that would warm up to us. They would recognize us over time, and we probably would be able to develop some kind of relationship in there as well too, with those energies. And how we approach it, right? How we approach those makes a difference as well too. There's no expectation. I don't have an expectation that spirits are going to be entertainment.
Right.
That's about getting them to do the dance for us. And it certainly is coming from a place of wonderment and curiosity, and supporting or helping transition, like if they're needing to transition and move on. So those,
I think we start every one by saying, like, we're if you want to tell us your story, we're happy. Like that's what we're here for, is to learn. We want to hear your story if you want to talk to us. Yeah, to me, it's not entertainment by any means. I mean, do we have a load of fun doing it? Absolutely, but it's not for the entertainment value. No, it's
no. And I think to be completely transparent, the older I get, the less motivated I feel to leave my house. I have no, I like being at home with my dogs, and so I find it's really good for me, because it can be a bad habit not engaging and having a social life, and not spending time and making an effort with the people that you care about, and with your friends. So I find that, like, I look forward to our times together, because I enjoy investigating. I enjoy doing something that's for me. So I don't necessarily have to be on, it's work, but not work, and enjoying time with people that I enjoy spending time with. So I think that, there's lots of benefits to why we do that. I think too, and it just dawned on me too. What was that one that I thought for sure we were going to have a good experience, and we walked and walked and walked, And so we had to go down that steep ravine, and then we walked down this pathway, and I was like jogging away.
Right.
It was like
it
so
was like some
steep and
kind of
far.
a abandoned mill or something, I think.
And then
that
it's
we were
all
trying
roped
to-
off, and you can't even get to it.
Yeah.
And all these like dodgy
No
people who like
trespass.
trespassed are posting pictures on social media that they
Yeah.
like them in front of this like abandoned mill, and
Yeah.
and there's huge signs everywhere saying like no
Yeah.
trespassing. And we
Right.
made this big effort because it just looked so cool. We saw these pictures online, and we did not
Got
trespass.
nothing. No, we didn't. We were respectful.
Totally respectful. And then frustrated by the people
Yeah.
who were not, and frustrated about being sweaty from walking down that hill and
Yeah.
down that huge
Yeah.
path to like somewhere
And
that there was like
mosquitoes.
nowhere to go, and mosquitoes. Yeah, that was an event. And I think that's when the snacks come in handy.
Yeah.
You know, that's definitely, you know, a good when the snacks come in handy.
Yeah.
It's funny because, you know, the snacks, it's my grandma passed away a few years ago, my mom's mom. And when I grew up, we lived 40-ish minutes outside of Sault Ste. Marie. So we kind of lived in the country, middle of nowhere. And so when we went into town, it was a really big deal. And we would go into town, and she would ask on the trip, you know, where we're going to go for lunch. And it would be like 8:30 in the morning because we had to plan. I totally think that I'm harnessing her all the time. Like, yep, we can totally do a nighttime investigation. And we're always home relatively early because there's no need to stay anywhere for a really long time at any of places. So when we feel done, we leave. But yeah, I'm like, okay, well, we're going to be gone approximately 4-ish hours. So I need to have this many snacks for us. This is what we're bringing. And it's never something like a protein bar. It's more like licorice and
licorice.
licorice. I am a licorice girl. So licorice and Reese's. So
yeah, I feel like that's the go-to.
The Reese's that have pretzels inside them.
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah. So yeah, it's about the snacks too.
Yeah.
And I mean, definitely water and hydrating, but at the same, and then because we're girls too, so it's like we've got hand sanitizer and toilet paper in case anybody needs to pee. And growing up in the country, you know, you just do what you need to do. It's not a big deal.
You never know
I get it out of the way.
How long we're going to be out there.
I know. Wow. I don't know. 4 children wrecked me.
Yeah.
So like a little bit of a breeze and I'm done. I gotta pee. So we've done pretty good on these investigations for sure. Yeah. I think if I was looking at places that, I mean, we've stayed pretty local. Like we've stayed within an hour to an hour and a half from home-ish relatively in that area. There's so many places to go to and to check out. There's just so many. I know I think Jen and her girl, so Melissa, yeah, it was Melissa B. I'll just put her question up. Melissa was asking if we've have you been to Bell Mill Side Road by Tilsonburg? My 3rd great grandfather is buried there. It's an old cemetery and church, was decommissioned and it's long gone. I haven't been there yet. There's so many. There's just so many. I mean, and then there's like the bigger locations, like Kingston has, you know, a lot that we could check out. Burlington, outside of Hamilton, has so many different places. Kitchener.
I was going to say Hamilton, Burlington. Like, there's a lot of historical big buildings, big cemeteries through there. Yeah. Yeah, we need to branch out. I definitely would love to go to other towns and do some more, get out of the local area a little bit. Yeah.
And I think the one that I've been drawn to that we haven't checked out, because I don't think that we'd have to go during the day unless we figure something else out. If we know a person who knows a person kind of thing, is the Toronto necropolis.
Oh, that's funny because that's on my list too.
The Toronto necropolis.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you look it up, just the historical structures to it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I imagining holding, like putting my hand up against one and the things that I would pick up from it. I
Yeah.
probably would pick up, I mean, because I pick up stuff before we land at cemeteries. So
Yep.
information sometimes comes in before we even go places. Yeah, I think that's one of them for sure. Did you have other places like that you would like to check out that we haven't yet?
I haven't like done a huge dive into cemeteries outside of. I know that there's all sorts of little towns all around Ontario that they say like the entire towns are haunted. I know
Yeah.
Bala for sure is one of the ones that I'm curious about. They say that that whole area it's got an old mill that's like an abandoned mill, and that whole area is supposed to be very active. Um, yeah, I mean, I would love to be able to get into the Kingston Pen if they would let us in on a private investigation. To me, that would be, yeah.
It was an interest. I went actually.
Did
Yeah. My friends Jim and Lorraine took me for my birthday once to the Kingston Pen, and we had great guards, and I had definitely had stuff that was going on intuitively that I was seeing when I went through. And it was a really neat experience. I think for me it was the Warden's Museum, the Warden's house across the street that I had way more experiences in.
Wow.
So I think that if we were going to do that, then I would want to hit up both at the same time.
Yeah.
Julie.
And I can only imagine that there's cemeteries up in that whole area too, because that's also a very active.
Yeah, my mom wants me to go because apparently when she was doing her ancestry, like our ancestry, so not just my mom, so our ancestry, we had a relative that was hanged at the Kingston Pen.
Oh.
I know. Wow. Everybody's got somebody in the family.
Yeah.
So
now I have been to the Ottawa jail. I have done that tour, and they still have the active gallows there where they used to do hangings. And yeah, it's a creepy place.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't been. Julie is saying Dundas. My hometown has a beautiful cemetery where all my family plots are.
Dundas is a beautiful little town.
Yeah, I haven't actually done a lot in Fergus, but I know that Fergus would have a lot of stuff as well too. Sorry, Wanda, I didn't say your name, but definitely Fergus is close by. Aaron, Ingersoll Rural Cemetery is pretty cool, especially up in the back left corner.
Everybody's picking up on that now.
Oh yeah, I want to hear everybody's back left corner cemetery story. You can send it to me. It's kerrilynn.shellhorn@gmail.com. If you've got a story you want to share with me, let me know.
For a direction you want to point us in.
Yeah, a place that you want us to check out. Certainly let me know. I think I was trying to that's not all the cemeteries that we've been to. We've been to other cemeteries as well too. And I think those are like some of the more memorable ones and ones that we would want to go back to and check again.
Yeah.
I think that there's still a lot to learn from that one that's sort of like in the Ingersoll Tillsonburg area where we caught that orb. I think that there's I don't feel finished there. Do you know what I mean?
No. I feel like we need to go back.
Yeah, and I want to be cognizant of it as well too, because sometimes there's something like if you feel pulled to a place, there's you just don't want an attachment happening either, right? So being super mindful of the discernment between my stuff and somebody else's stuff, all that kind of thing.
Right. But yeah, any of the ones that were like that one with the little girl in St. George, like where we've had like a fairly intense personal experience, those are the ones that I'm like excited to go back to and see if we can dive back into that.
Yeah. And in the end, that's what we're hoping for, right? Like any investigation, a personal experience is is good, whether we've caught things, because I know when you were having that experience where you said that your hand was being held, I snapped pictures and we didn't catch anything on the camera either, but it was still happening.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
it doesn't take away from the truthfulness of your experience.
Right. Yeah, there's no like factual evidence of it other than I know what I felt, and I mean you felt my hand afterwards, so there was that, but there's no explanation for that. Like you said, the night was warm, my other hand was completely fine, and that one's absolutely freezing. Like it was definitely an experience.
Yeah, and I like when you're doing that whistling and they're whistling back. A whistle is a whole lot better than a growl.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I don't want to hear too many growls.
Mm-hmm. No, but when we caught that, I say it looks like a dog, right? But
Yeah.
you call it a troll, so troll baby.
Whatever it is.
Whatever it was.
Yeah.
We didn't hear anything.
No. And I didn't feel scared. Like I didn't feel intimidated or like there was anything heavy. I had just literally seen the movement of it and didn't realize until afterwards that that's what I had captured. But I definitely didn't feel heaviness there.
Yeah. If anybody saw that or had a thought about, what they think it could be or might be, please let us know. Because I'd be interested in hearing. Because I don't quite. I mean, I'd certainly could sit with it a little bit more too, because I really haven't done that yet. If I'm being honest, I haven't done that yet. But that was something.
Yeah. And looking right in my direction, like right back at me.
And I think because we both have pets too, our pets are pretty intuitive. Like our pets know when there's something extra going on in our houses. And, we've certainly, even once we said like whatever it was that was in the vehicle that left the Princeton Cemetery and was tagging along with us in the vehicle, it left right away, and we didn't have any experiences. Like, again, it's being mindful of that your spiritual hygiene is just as important as your physical hygiene. And if you are not, if you're a beginner person, make sure that you're with somebody that has more experience. So if you run into those things that are heavier or could attach or create havoc in your world, that they know what they're doing and can stop that. We certainly have had experiences when we've done the seances in my house where we've had to stop what we are doing and clear and move things out of the way and just end it, right? Like if not working from a place of ego and making it all about yourself, right? Knowing when it's time is important.
For sure.
Oh, that's so funny. Look at Joe. Don't make fun of the troll baby.
Yeah. Let's say the only instruction I get when I leave the house is that I'm not allowed to bring anything back with me. Totally supports me going out on all of these adventures.
So let everybody know who Joe is.
So that's my husband. Literally just got home from work and has obviously decided to pop in and join us.
Yes, thanks for joining us, Joe. Thanks for letting Jodi come play with me.
He enjoys hearing the stories.
Yeah. I make sure. I think the last time too, not necessarily that they were appropriate shoes, but I just sometimes it is about having fun. And most of the times when we do those investigations, I really am in comfy clothes that, I can shove extra batteries and equipment and snacks and stuff in my pockets. But I have this new pair of shoes that has glow in the dark ghosts on them. So like we were doing the investigation with these glow in the dark ghosts. So that, it was just like, it really is about, having a fun experience and spending time with friends. And then if anything, paranormal happens, it's just an added bonus, right?
Right. Well, and you've always said if you bring the fun and that sort of fun attitude, that's you usually do end up getting an experience because they feed on that energy, right? So
Yeah,
even in the
sure.
seances, like if we're laughing and we're like, trying to encourage that fun sort of joker kind of, that's when we get the activity really.
Yeah, that's when we get all the celebrities actually. When we have that intention about having a good time and making it like, and we call it the party peeps because we
Yeah.
have this sort of group of celebrity party peeps that show up, and that's how they respond. And we've had a lot of fun experiences. I think
Yeah.
with the cemeteries too, there is respect to people's stories, the history, the architecture, the land. We really do. And I think too, maybe we can take it one step further because I really feel it's a learning curve too. I have not done a lot of cemetery investigations. So for us, this is all new to me too,
Yeah.
and doing these. So, as we've learned, when we went back to that cemetery where all the intense stuff happened, because there was a drinker for sure. So we brought a ball of booze,
Yeah.
bringing some offerings to
Yeah.
hang out, and, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So Laura Lee's just saying hi to Joe, awesome that you could pop in to support your lovely wife, Jodi. And she is lovely, which is super fun. Yeah. So I think, we've brought the bear for like the teddy bear that lights up as well too. For little people. And the snacks too. The snacks sometimes are used as well too. If anybody wants to, that's in spirit, come up and have snacks with us.
Right.
We've done that. I think all of that helps us have those experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all about encouraging, right? And like being welcoming. And I know, like you say that about the booze, it makes me laugh because I'm thinking about when we tried that, Estes and I got the nasty name calling, and you sort of put on your mama bear shoes, and we're like, that's not very nice. We came here with respect. We even brought you gifts.
Yeah.
And I think I did get an I'm sorry through the
we did
earphones. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it works.
I know. That's what I really think. And again, it's so layered at that cemetery. It's so layered because I do think that there's that collector energy, and then we have those other spirits that are having their opportunity to try to connect when that energy pulls back a wee bit, right? Yeah, definitely. And I feel the experience that would be at the other place where we had the big shadow figure show up. I think that we'll kind of have similar experiences there as well.
Yeah.
This was great.
Yeah, it was fun.
Thanks for thanks for being my buddy and doing all of these fun things with me. And I know that, this potentially wasn't your cup of tea coming on the show and chatting with me, but I hope that you had a good time, and like I would like to do this again and have everybody else's experience as well too. Laura Lee's Laura Lee's just saying, I love how respectful you both are with spirit. That's the way it should be. And it's important for people to hear the respect that you give. I agree 100%. So next week, it's a pre-record that I have happening for Spirit Switchboard next week. I do have a Night with Spirits event, so I'm going to be out of town, but I do have a great guest coming on. So I hope everybody listens, and I'll be watching for any comments. His name is David Barretto, and I just want to make sure I get the whole, because I know that it's Carmen reincarnation, but it's Carmen reincarnation in the animal kingdom, the spiritual origin of species. And we had a great conversation talking about animal karma, animal reincarnation, and animals in the spirit world. And I hope that you guys I hope that you guys enjoy that conversation next week. So thank you to everybody that was here supporting us and hanging out in the chat room. A wonderful shout out and appreciation to the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7. Thanks so much for being here, and good night, everybody.
Good night.
You've been listening to Spirit Switchboard with host Kerrilynn Shellhorn on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 New Orleans.